Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive on mindful parenting.
Mindful
We're going
parenting.
to be looking at Raising Good Humans by Hunter Clarke-Fields.
Oh, yeah.
It's all about moving away from that reactive parenting style,
Mm,
yelling frustration out
it's tough.
and moving towards a calmer and more compassionate approach.
Absolutely.
And it's not just me saying this is a great book.
Right.
KJ Dell'Antonia, the author of How to Be a Happier Parent, calls this book hopeful and inspiring.
And I think that's a great word for it.
And Hal Runkle from Scream Free Parenting says it's a must-read for turning those little ones into amazing adults.
Oh, so true.
So are you ready to dive in and raise some good humans?
Am.
Okay, let's do it.
I think what I really like about this book, the way it starts off is it acknowledges that even if we have the best intentions, as parents, that stress can really take over
Yeah.
and it can kind of hijack our parenting.
Yeah, it's like our brains just shut down the minute we need them the most.
That fight or flight kicks in.
Yeah, and it's like our inner caveman comes out.
Our inner caveman.
And, she doesn't just talk about this in theory.
Right.
She shares a personal story about a time when she was stressed and she did something that she regretted, even though she knew better.
It makes you feel so much better as a parent when you hear that.
Yeah, it makes you realize we're all human. We all make mistakes.
Absolutely. We're not perfect.
But it's about moving forward from that, right?
Yeah, it's about responding differently.
And, Clarke-Fields suggests something called mindfulness meditation.
Have you ever tried that?
I have. Um, I'm not the best at meditating,
Yeah, it's a tough one.
but when I do, it really helps.
Yeah.
But, it is like a superpower,
It is.
especially for parents.
I mean, I know you said you've dabbled in it,
Yeah.
but it is really like rewiring the brain and it reduces those knee-jerk reactions.
Okay, so it's like hitting the pause button
Yes, exactly.
before things escalate.
You got it.
I love the raisin meditation.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it.
Have you ever tried this one? You really slow down and focus on the look, the feel, even the smell, the taste of a single raisin.
You're really present.
It's so simple,
It is.
but it's like this really powerful way to get a taste of what mindfulness is all about.
You really get in touch with your senses.
And if raisins aren't your thing,
Yeah.
she even provides links to guided meditations online.
That's amazing, especially if you're a beginner.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are so helpful.
So I think that's a great place to start. But to really transform your parenting, we've got to dig a little deeper.
Okay, I'm ready.
She guides us to explore our triggers,
Triggers.
the things that set us off,
What sets us off?
like when we lose it as parents.
I feel like I have so many.
Oh, I'm sure we all do.
But it's not just about the messy room or, the toys all over the place.
It's not.
It's something much deeper than that.
It is.
We were talking about the how were you parented exercise.
Yeah.
It helps you uncover those hidden patterns in your life that are maybe contributing to those triggers.
Yeah. I think that's so powerful.
It is.
It's so insightful.
Yeah.
But, she doesn't shy away from discussing the negative impact
Yeah.
of yelling on children.
Yeah.
And that could be in the short term or the long term.
It can really chip away at the relationship that you have with your child.
Yeah. Okay, so we're starting to understand our triggers.
Okay.
But how do we stop
Yeah, how do we stop it?
that yelling
Yeah.
in the heat of the moment?
Yes.
I feel like my brain just short circuits and the yelling just comes out.
It's like an out-of-body experience sometimes.
It is.
It's like I'm watching myself.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
So what can we do?
So what she suggests is that we track those yelling episodes.
Track them.
Yeah, like keep a journal
Okay.
or even notes in your phone. And you just write down, who you yelled at, what triggered it,
What triggered it?
Yeah.
Okay.
and what feelings were kind of happening before that anger outburst.
So it's like becoming a detective of your own emotions.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've identified the triggers. Now,
Now we create a plan.
a plan.
A yellless plan.
I love that. A yellless plan.
A yellless
Plan. So this is where we pre-commit to alternative responses
alternative
to yelling.
Yes, exactly.
So is it like a mantra you repeat in your head?
It could be.
Okay.
It could be a breathing exercise.
Okay.
Or even just stepping away from the situation to kind of calm down.
So it's like having a fire escape for your emotions.
You got it.
You've got that plan in place
You're prepared.
before things get out of control.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of parents, myself included, we struggle with guilt and shame when we do mess up.
Oh, the guilt and shame is the worst.
It's the worst. But Clarke-Fields talks about self-compassion,
Yeah.
which I think is so important.
It's so important.
It's not about letting ourselves off the hook.
Right.
It's recognizing that we're human and we're learning.
And we're doing the best we can.
I remember that story she shared about Holly, the mom who slapped her son after a sleepless night.
Oh, gosh.
And she was so consumed with guilt and shame.
Oh, yeah.
And it really is a reminder that we all have those moments.
You do.
And that self-judgment can be so destructive.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's why she brings in the work of Kristen Neff.
Oh, Kristen Neff. I love her.
Me too.
You know, she's like the leading researcher on self-compassion.
And she outlines those 3 elements of self-compassion.
Self-kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness.
And she has a few exercises that she suggests.
So like unhooking from negative thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
Where you notice that critical thought and you add, I'm having the thought that...
And it creates a little distance
Yes.
between you and that thought.
Yeah.
So you don't get swept away.
So you're not carried away in the current.
And of course, she talks about loving kindness, meditation.
Oh, yeah.
Setting those feelings of warmth and kindness to yourself and others.
To ourselves and others.
It's so powerful.
It really is.
But self-compassion isn't just about, like, feeling good. It's about handling those really difficult emotions.
So like anger, frustration, and sadness.
That come with parenting.
That's part of it.
It's like you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf.
Exactly.
She introduces this idea, pain times resistance equals suffering.
I love that.
The more we fight against those feelings, the more we suffer.
We prolong the suffering.
So are we just supposed to, like, let those feelings wash over us and drown?
No, no, no.
What do we do?
So she encourages us to find that middle path.
The middle path.
Not suppressing those feelings, but not letting them completely overwhelm us.
So we acknowledge them.
Yeah, acknowledge them and let them run their course.
Like a toddler having a tantrum.
Yes.
They're not going to calm down until they feel heard and understood.
Exactly.
I've definitely had my fair share of toddler tantrums.
I think we all have.
Okay, so we're learning to ride those waves of emotion.
Ride the wave.
Is there anything we can do to process those feelings?
There is.
She mentions this technique called TPI,
It's TPI.
which stands for Technique to Identify Subconscious Fears.
It's a mouthful.
And it's a mouthful.
But it was developed by Luke Nacon,
Okay.
and it's all about processing emotions through sensory immersion.
Sensory immersion. What is that?
What does that even mean, right?
It sounds intense.
It sounds intense, but it's really simple.
Okay.
It's about tuning in to the physical sensations that are happening with those emotions rather than trying to analyze or control them.
Okay.
So instead of getting caught up in, why am I so angry?
Yeah.
You focus on the actual sensations that are happening in your body.
So like the tightness in your chest.
Yes.
The heat in your face.
Yes.
The tension in your jaw.
All of it.
Okay.
So you're really shifting your attention from your thoughts to your body.
I could see how that could be really helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got some tools for managing our own reactivity and navigating those big feelings.
We do.
But how do we communicate with our kids in those tough moments?
Well, communication, that's a whole other topic.
Thing is-
She devotes a whole chapter to skillful communication.
And she starts with listening.
Listening.
Really listening.
Really listen.
Not just waiting for our turn to talk.
It's so easy to do that, though.
It is so easy.
What they really need is to be heard and understood.
And she encourages us to ask ourselves this question, who has the problem?
Who has the problem?
Such a simple question.
So simple.
But I think it can be a real game changer.
It is.
It helps us shift from, feeling like we need to fix everything
Yeah.
to recognizing that sometimes our kids just need our support as they work through their own challenges.
It's a big difference.
I used to think I was doing my kids a favor by swooping in and like solving all their problems.
Oh, yeah. We all do that.
But I'm realizing that I was robbing them of that opportunity to develop those coping skills themselves.
They need those skills.
She talks about this technique called reflective listening.
Reflective listening.
Have you ever tried this?
Of course.
I've heard of it,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure I fully understand it.
Okay, so it's about reflecting back what your child is saying,
Okay.
both the content and the feelings.
Okay.
It's like holding up a mirror
A mirror to their experience.
so they can see themselves more clearly.
Exactly.
So it might sound something like this. You're feeling really frustrated because you can't find your favorite toy.
You got it.
That must be so disappointing.
Exactly.
So it's not about offering solutions or advice.
No.
It's just about validating their feelings.
Validating those feelings.
And sometimes that's all they need.
It is.
She shares that example about the son who's struggling with social exclusion at recess.
Oh, yeah.
And through reflective listening, his mom was able to help him find his own solution.
It's amazing.
So we've talked about listening as being key.
So important.
But what about when we need to communicate our own needs and boundaries?
That's a tough one.
It is. But she introduces this idea of I messages
I'm messing.
as a way to do that effectively.
Okay. I've heard of these.
Have you tried them?
I have a little bit.
It's a game changer.
I think so.
It's a way to communicate your needs and boundaries without blaming or judging your child.
Right.
So instead of saying, "You're so messy, clean your room,"
Yeah.
you can say, "I feel stressed when the house is messy because I can't relax."
There's a total shift.
It is a shift.
I've been trying these lately, and it's amazing how much better my kids respond.
Really?
Yeah,
It's crazy, right?
it is.
A little shift in language makes a big difference.
It really does.
And she talks about, taking a pause before you respond to really understand what's going on inside yourself.
That pause is so important.
It's so important.
It's the difference between reacting and responding.
Reacting and responding.
And she even suggests incorporating, like, playfulness into setting limits.
And that's my favorite part.
It takes the seriousness out of it.
It does.
It's like you can use humor, you can use silliness.
So you can use role playing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about how to manage our own reactivity, how to listen effectively, how to communicate our needs.
We have
But what happens when those big conflicts arise?
the big blowouts.
Yeah, the ones that feel like they could erupt into World War III.
That's when mindful conflict resolution comes in, and that's exactly what we're going to be diving into in part 2 of this deep dive.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back.
All right, so we left off talking about how, like, skillful communication
Right.
can really transform how we interact with our kids.
It really can.
But even with, like, the best communication skills in the world,
Yeah,
conflicts are bound to happen,
they are.
especially in families.
Especially in families.
So how do we handle those conflicts without resorting to the same old patterns of yelling and punishment?
The same old patterns.
Clarke-Fields offers some really interesting alternatives.
Okay, I like alternatives.
Yeah.
So she starts off by kind of challenging that common approach to punishment. Timeouts, taking away privileges, even just like a harsh word.
Okay.
She really dives into why that might not be the most effective way to teach our kids.
I'll admit, punishment was like my go-to strategy for a long time.
It's so easy to fall back on that.
Yeah, it just seemed like the fastest way to get my kids to behave.
To get them to listen.
But I'm starting to realize that it doesn't really address the underlying issues.
The root of the problem.
Yeah.
Punishment, it might lead to compliance in the short term, but it doesn't really teach kids, why their behavior was wrong
Right.
or how to make better choices in the future.
It doesn't teach those skills.
It doesn't.
So if punishment isn't the answer,
Yeah.
what is?
What is the answer?
Because sometimes our kids do things that require a response,
Of course.
right? Like we have to respond.
Right.
So what do we do?
So that's when she introduces this concept of win-win problem solving.
Okay, win-win problem solving.
I just like
Sound of that.
one.
But how does it actually work?
Yeah. How do you actually implement it?
Especially when you're like in the thick of it?
When you're in the trenches.
Yeah, with like a screaming toddler or a defiant teenager.
Oh, yeah.
Those can be some tough situations.
They're tough.
So give us the roadmap.
Give me the roadmap.
Like, how do we do this?
Okay, so first, we identify everyone's needs.
Okay.
Everyone.
Identify everyone's needs.
And we distinguish between needs and solutions.
Okay.
So your child might say, I need a cell phone,
Oh, yeah.
but the need might actually be connection with their friends
Oh.
or a sense of independence.
Okay.
It's deeper than that surface level.
So you're like digging beneath the surface
We're going deeper.
to really understand what's going on.
Yes.
Okay, so once we've identified those needs,
Then we brainstorm solutions.
together.
Together, this is where we get the kids involved.
Okay, so they're part of the process.
They're part of the process.
That's great.
So it's no longer you dictating the solution.
Right.
It's collaborative.
So then you evaluate those solutions,
Yeah. Together,
pros and cons,
and then make a decision
as a family.
as a family.
And then a crucial step is to check in later to see if it's still working.
Oh, that's a good point.
And if it's not working, you go back to the drawing board.
Tweak it.
Tweak it.
This sounds great in theory,
Right.
but I'm just picturing myself like trying to do this with my 5-year-old,
I know.
and I just don't see it happening.
It takes practice.
I can just imagine her like stomping her feet and yelling, "No, I want it my way."
It takes patience.
It does.
It does.
But she suggests starting with positive problem.
Positive problems.
So like planning a family outing
Oh.
or deciding what to have for dinner
So you're kind of practicing those conflict resolution muscles
in a low stakes environment.
in a safe space.
Yeah.
And then when a real conflict arises, you have that foundation.
Okay, I like that.
Okay, so win-win problem solving is a great approach for those big conflicts.
But what about the everyday squabbles,
Oh, the squabble.
especially between siblings? Oh, sibling rivalry.
It's like a tale as old as time.
It is a tale as old as time.
So she draws wisdom from Dr. Laura Markham,
Oh, Dr. Laura Marks.
author of Peaceful Parent, Happy Siblings.
Love that book.
And she outlines like 3 key principles for raising siblings who get along.
Who actually get along?
Yeah.
Okay, spill the beans.
I need these tips.
Okay, so the first one is self-regulation.
Self-regulation.
And this is where our mindfulness practice comes in.
Okay.
We have to model that for our kids.
Because if we're losing our cool all the time,
Right.
how can we expect them to stay calm?
We can.
It's like put on your own oxygen mask first.
Exactly.
Okay, self-regulation key.
Key.
What's next?
Okay, so the next one is prioritizing connection.
Connection.
So Dr. Markham emphasizes that strong parent-child bond is the foundation.
It's like connection before correction.
Yes.
Right.
You can't discipline a child that you don't have a relationship with. So when your kids are fighting, instead of immediately jumping in to punish the guilty party,
Right.
focus on maintaining that connection with each child.
So being a source of support.
Yes.
And understanding.
Understanding.
Instead of like judge and jury.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Shifting from blame to empathy.
I love that.
And then the third one is coaching instead of controlling.
Okay. I like that. Coaching instead of controlling.
Coaching instead of controlling.
But what does that look like?
What does that actually look like in real life?
Yeah.
So it's about guiding our children through conflict rather than dictating solutions.
Okay.
We can use those communication skills that we talked about earlier.
The reflective listening.
Yes.
I statements.
My messages.
To help them understand their own feelings, to communicate, and to find solutions that work for everyone.
Yeah.
So instead of yelling, stop fighting,
Right.
you might say, I see that you're both upset.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what happened?
Exactly.
And then you can help them brainstorm solutions
Together.
together.
And Clarke-Fields, she reminds us that this takes practice.
It's not going to happen overnight.
No.
You're not going to get it right every time.
We're not going to be perfect.
But it's about progress.
Progress, not perfection.
So we've talked about managing our own reactivity, communicating, effectively resolving conflict.
We have.
Is there anything else we can do to create a more peaceful home environment?
To prevent those conflicts.
Yeah, to like set the stage for peace.
Yes.
Clarke-Fields has a whole chapter on that, right?
She does. She shares some practical tips and insights on creating a home that really supports connection, cooperation, and well-being.
Well-being for everyone.
For everyone.
And that's exactly what we'll be diving into in part 3 of this deep dive. All right, so welcome back to our deep dive into raising good humans.
We're back.
We've been talking about all these strategies
So many strategies.
for managing our own reactivity, communicating, effectively resolving conflicts.
Yes.
In a way that strengthens our relationships with our kids.
That's the goal.
But creating a peaceful home is about more than just like handling those tough moments,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's about creating an environment that really nourishes those little hearts and minds
I love that, nourishing those hearts and minds.
and sets them up for success,
Hmm.
in life.
Yeah, and Clarke-Fields offers some really simple but profound insights on how to do that.
Okay, I'm ready to hear these.
Okay, so she starts with the power of touch.
Touch.
Hugs, cuddles, snuggles.
Those little moments of physical
It
connection.
can make such a difference.
Sometimes I get so caught up in the busyness of life,
Oh, me too.
getting everyone fed and dressed and out the door,
The daily grind.
that I forget to like slow down and connect with my kids on a physical level.
You're not alone.
It's like we're just ships passing in the night.
Yeah, and she reminds us that, physical touch, it's a fundamental human need,
It is.
especially for children.
Those hugs and cuddles release those feel-good hormones.
Oxytocin.
It reduces stress and it strengthens that bond.
It's like magic.
Remember that quote she shares from Virginia Sater?
Oh, yeah.
We need 4 hugs a day for survival.
4 hugs a day for survival.
8 hugs a day for maintenance.
Maintenance.
And 12 hugs a day for growth.
12 hugs a day for growth.
Wow, I am not hitting that number.
I don't know if I am either.
But I love this idea of being more intentional about incorporating physical touch into our routines.
Yes.
It's like a little dose of love and reassurance
For both of you.
for both of us.
Yeah.
And speaking of connection,
Yes.
she talks about play,
Play.
which sometimes as parents we kind of overlook.
We do.
I've always been like a get down to business kind of parent.
It's like structure.
Structure schedules,
Essential.
making sure they're learning, achieving.
We all want what's best for our kids.
But I'm sensing that maybe I've been missing something
You might be.
because she makes a really good case for play.
It's not just about having fun.
It's not.
It's crucial for their development.
Okay.
It fosters creativity, problem-solving skills, emotional regulation, social skills.
It's also a great way to connect with your kids on their level,
On their level.
to get down on the floor and like build a fort,
Be silly.
have a tickle fight.
Let loose.
Yeah, I think as adults we forget how to play.
We do. We get so serious.
We get so serious.
So she encourages us to let go of our inhibitions.
Yes.
And embrace those moments.
And even carve out what she calls special time.
Special time.
Have you ever tried this?
I have.
I've always been a little intimidated by it.
Why?
It just sounds like one more thing
I know.
on my to-do list.
But it doesn't have to be a lot of time.
Right.
It could be 5 or 10 minutes.
So it's about quality over quantity.
It's about being fully present with them.
I'm starting to get it.
You're getting it.
It's not about adding more to my plate.
Right.
It's about shifting my perspective,
Right.
slowing down and savoring those moments.
Yes.
And speaking of things that can hijack our time and attention,
Oh, yeah.
screen time.
The screen time dilemma.
I'm pretty strict with my kids about screen time,
Okay.
but I'm not so good at setting limits for myself.
Me too.
I find myself just mindlessly scrolling.
The scroll.
And it's not the best example.
We have to model those healthy habits.
So it's about being intentional
Intentionally.
with our technology.
And making conscious choices about how we spend our time and energy.
And all of this just comes back to that idea of mindful parenting,
Mindful parenting.
which she reminds us is not about perfection.
No.
It's about progress.
Progress, not perfection.
And it's about showing up for our kids with presence, with
Yeah.
compassion,
Yes.
and a willingness to learn and grow.
We're all learning and growing.
What a relief, because I think so many of us get caught up in that striving for perfection.
The pressure is real.
And it just leads to guilt and burnout.
It does.
We're all works in progress.
We are.
And the beauty of it is we get to learn and grow alongside our kids.
It's a journey.
It is a journey.
A lifelong journey.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. What stands out to you as like the most important takeaway?
I would say connection.
Connection.
Creating those moments of genuine connection with our kids through touch, through play, through presence.
It's remembering that those little moments
Yeah,
are actually the big moments.
they are.
What final thought would you leave our listeners with?
I would say pick one thing from this deep dive that really resonated with you
Okay.
and try it out in your own life.
Just one thing.
Just one thing. And remember, you're not alone on this journey.
We're all in this together.
We are.
And if those of you who want to learn more, be sure to check out the show notes for links to additional resources and information.
Happy parenting, everyone.
Happy parenting.